Hello and welcome, my friends. This is Brian, Speaker for the Dead, coming to you from the road with another trick video today. And I would just like to say thank you really quick for the great response that my Star Trek video got. It's over 1,000 views, which is big for me. So thank you to the new subscribers who've come. I'd like to say welcome. I do two different types of videos from home and videos from the road, and that's what this is. So, without any further ado, let's talk about the subject for today. Now, I was recently watching a video by Nerd Cookies. Now, for those of you who don't know who Nerd Cookies is she's a female YouTuber who does science fiction kind of stuff. And her big thing for the last couple of years, one of her main topics has been the Dune series by Denis Villeneuve, whatever his name is. And she had a video today, and she's really been touting the third movie that's going to be coming out here in the next few months. And I have to say that I'm not excited for this. Let me tell you what I think's going to happen, and then you guys can chime in the comments and let me know what you think. Now, for the record, I am a really big Dune fan, okay? I have loved Dune since the 84 version. It took me a long time. I was probably in my 30s before I actually read the books that the movie and these movies are based on. And I love the books. The books are fantastic. I was always worried about them because I thought they might be too dry and stuff of a science fiction, not really understanding just how good they were going to be. And so I lament the fact that it took me that long to get deeper into Dune. So I am not as big of an expert as many people who talk about Dune. I've only read the main books. And listen to them on audio and stuff like that. So I'm no expert, okay? But that which I know, and I know what I think about them. Now, my opinion on the 84 film was fantastic. It was so good. It had its shortcomings. It had its limitations. The biggest problem being that they didn't have time. That movie suffered because the studio interfered with David Lynch and didn't let him create and make the film that he wanted. They were in the way and they caused problems. That's why we never got a director's version. There's multiple versions of that film, but we never got the David Lynch cut. Because David Lynch was pissed after everything they did, after all the work he put in, and the studio pissed around and screwed that film up for him, and he just didn't want to go back to it, which is sad because it was. I would have loved to have seen the David Lynch version. But there are other versions and they're good. I know that a lot of people have seen the different mini-series and stuff like that have been done. I didn't really care for most of the other versions. The Sci-Fi Network did a version. I didn't particularly like it, mainly because the cast seemed very... a lot of the cast, not all of the cast, but a lot of the cast seemed very, not great. I felt like it was subpar to the 84 version. Now, it had a lot of different elements that the 84 version never got put in. So they were able to put a lot more into that because they had more time. Now, that brings us to the David Lynch version. The first film was all right. I thought, and I'm just going to say this, the visual aesthetics, the casting, for the most part, there's been problematic casting. The Emperor was terribly, terribly miscast in Denis Villeneuve's. It was terrible. He was just not the right person for that. It would have been better. They went for somebody well known instead of somebody who could do the job correctly. And it's not to say I don't love the actor that they got, but he just was not the right actor for that. The fact that they race and gender swapped Liet Kynes really bothered me. Because he is clearly a man in the books. He is her father, not her mother. And they just did that to throw another woman character in there, which was stupid because they die. They don't live. They don't go on in the other. They die. They made Thufir Howard a black guy, which was fine, but they minimized Thufir Howard's character to basically nothing. I mean, he's in the movie for like 15 seconds, which Thufir plays a much larger role throughout the entire series. You hardly even got to see him. And they sacrificed him in lieu of other characters and stuff that I don't think were as integral to the story. And I thought it was really sad. So that those movies had problems. The aesthetics were great. Most of the casting was good, like I said, and the special effects were great and stuff. The visualization and stuff was really good. I mean, it really was. It was really good. I have to admit that. In both films, 1 and 2. They did a great job. I thought Timothée Chalamet does a great job as Paul Atreides, which surprised me. I was not expecting him to do as well and for me to like him as Paul as much as I did, but he does a great job. And I really started to become quite a fan of his acting. But let's get on and talk about the third film, okay? My thoughts on this is we're going to have the same thing. We're going to get fantastic visuals. We're going to get fantastic special effects where they're really going to have focused in, know what they want to do, and they're going to do it. And when Hollywood has that, they really can shine. When they have a clear-cut idea and they're making the movie as it goes, instead of like Marvel where they're constantly doing reshoots and throwing money and hoping that it works out in the end, and they're barely getting shots done in time because they made them redo the whole thing 5 seconds before it goes to the theater. And that's why Marvel's gone so bad, which Marvel's going to be my next video. I've got a lot of videos I need to make right now, and hopefully I don't wear you guys out. But my problem is the second Dune film was good and terrible at the same time. What they did with Zendaya and the bastardization of the culture of the Fremen was tragic. And this video that I watched of Nerd Cookies today, she was off. She was not her normal self. She was not as good in this video as she normally is. I think she got the Fremen culture kind of messed up in her take. I felt like she was off. Her comparisons to the Sadrakar and what happens with the Sadrakar and like they were just not right. Like they felt off. Her characterizations of Scytale and how he's one of the major conspirators, I never felt that from Scytale. Scytale is the tool. Scytale is the tip of the sword that the conspirators used. The Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohim, the Bene Gesserit, the Spacing Guild, and I can't remember. There's some other, and it might have even been the Beneath Lilacs, but they weren't as big into it as like the other conspiratorial members are much bigger involved, much more involved. The House of Carino and stuff are much more involved in the plot, the conspiracy to take Paul down. And I never felt like Scytale was like I said, he's more of what they use to bring on the conspiracy and to initiate the conspiracy and and the Beneath Lilacs, I think is how you say it. Also create Hate, who is the Gola, which is Duncan Idaho reborn as an assassin, essentially, to try and get close and kill Paul. Hope I'm not giving anything away here. If I am, then don't. You should have read the books by now. But like her take on it was just, it seemed like it was off today. It seems like she's so desperate to try and undercut the problems that are going to happen with this film in lieu of promoting this film because she just wants to see more Dune films. And I have a problem with that. I've had a problem with that for a while because that's Hollywood's modus operandi now, is just create, just churn out more product. That's what they're good at. not good at making quality product. They're just great at churning out chum to try and throw, hoping that we're the sharks and that we're gonna take the bait. And I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, they did the same thing with Disney. Did the same thing with the Dark Crystal. They tried to make a Dark Crystal series, which was god awful. It was a terrible series. The effects and stuff were all good and interesting, but the storyline, how they went about it, the like everything else about it was just terrible. It was made by a bunch of women who didn't understand the Dark Crystal, including the daughter of Jim Henson, who apparently didn't understand her dad or anything about what his vision was for the Dark Crystal. It was horrendous, and that's what we're getting. We're getting people who don't understand truly what they're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be telling their story. They're supposed to be telling Frank Herbert's story, and that's the problem I've had with these and most films now, is that we're getting Denise Villeneuve's vision. It's like, I don't give a shit about your vision. I want Frank Herbert's vision on the screen, not yours. Not your weird, creepy interpretation. I like the Bene Gesserit, so I'm going to shove them into everything I can get into this film. It's really sad that's what we're going to get, and that we're going to get Robert Pattinson as Scytale. I'm sorry, I'm not a Robert Pattinson fan. I have never liked him since they cast him in Twilight, and he was the worst Edward they could have possibly cast. And the person that they cast to play Bella was as talented as a plank of wood. She was terrible. The rest of that cast was actually pretty good for that film. I love the Twilight books. I know it might have just like pissed everybody off, but I liked the books. The movies were terrible, just awful interpretations, mainly because of those two. They really made those movies suck. So I've never liked Robert Pattinson ever since then. He was passable in the Batman, but just still not. No, he's not good. Yeah, he's not worth the hype and the everything that gets spun up around him. I mean, he peaked in the Harry Potter film that he was in, the Goblet of Fire. Like, that should have been where his career started and ended. I would have been fine with that. If you like him, that's fine. I'm not hating on you. I just don't like him as an actor. I don't think he's great. And maybe he'll be good in this. I don't know. But I'm not really planning on going to see this because of how they left the second film, with Chani being completely antagonistic towards Paul, which absolutely never, ever, 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 ever happens in the books. Okay? That is an absolute bastardization of Chani's character. And it was done for girl power. And I don't know how they solved that, because now somehow Chani's got to be completely flipped, polar opposite, and accept Paul as he is now, and for what he's done and what he's had to do with marrying the Princess Yudalin. And seriously, how do you go from I hate you, you're destroying my people, yeah, now I love you, I want to have babies with you. Now my guess is they'll say that she was pregnant before with Paul, but I mean, and they completely took out the fact that Paul and Chani had a son before the twins, and he was killed by the Sardaukar by a secret attack that should have happened in the last film that didn't. Like I said, they stick in a bunch of shit that doesn't need to be there in lieu of a bunch of stuff that really did need to be in there. The fact that the Fremen are united in what they're doing, and that they only begin to fracture as the campaign goes on and on and on. But even in Nerd Cookie's videos, I felt like she got that wrong. Like, yes, the Fremen are part of a faction of the Fremen are kind of anti-Paul towards the end, and they do participate in some of the conspiracy to take him down and stuff like that. But overall, they're not at all like that. And she's talking about the big battles and stuff that they're going to have. And yeah, those are going to look great. And that's the problem. They're going to look great, and they're going to overwhelm the senses of people who should be paying attention to the story. And the fact that the Fremen don't all go out, are not in a mass against Paul. It's only a few of them. For the most part, they go in and they conquer most of the known universe. despite the fact that, and it seems like from what she's talking about, like they're going to dwell way too much on the breakdown of what happens with the Fremen, and they're going to show how they weren't prepared to battle on water worlds and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, these people just still don't get the Fremen. The Fremen would be confused by it, by suddenly being on worlds where it's water's falling from the sky, and it would change them to a certain degree. But it would take a long time for them to change. It would take a long time for them to have their cultural beliefs break down. And it's not going to happen in just a few short years of when the jihad takes place. And I don't see this being a great movie. It's going to look great, and there's going to be enough of, whoa, this is so cool, that I think a lot of people are going to get sucked in, and I think it's probably going to make a lot of money, just like the last one did, because people don't realize they're being spoon-fed teaspoons of shit underneath the cups of great visual storytelling. And that's the problem, is that, like, Villeneuve's, he's teaspooning in little bits of shit and garbage and crap to feed you with the big meal so you don't notice that it's being fed to you. And that's what Hollywood has been doing for a long time, is that they just cannot help but try and stick that DEI feminist horse shit and stir it in, to ruin that which should be fantastic. And but that's what we're getting. I mean, most of the time you got directors that are just scooping as much shit as they're scooping anything that might be good, and so it's obvious, you can see it. But when they're just lightly sprinkling it in, it's like what the FDA allows in food. If we actually knew what did you know that they allow so many rat droppings in a hot dog? Or so many rat hairs, so many different things into a hot dog because they're hoping that you don't notice. Mass food production has some serious issues, and mass film production has very similar issues to that. We just have to be careful of how much shit we're letting in to stuff that we're consuming. And that's the sad part, is that there's so much of it now that you just can't help but kind of get overwhelmed with what Hollywood's doing. So feel free to go watch Nerd Cookie. She's a good channel, and I really like watching her stuff for the most part. And that's why I felt like it was weird that this video seemed to be so off kilter compared to her normal stuff. It was kind of sad for me to see that, and I hope this movie ends up being better than I think it is, but I don't think it's going to. I think they're going to continue on with the line of Chani and Paul hating each other. I think the back scenes that you've seen in the trailers is going to be scenes that were from before, and that Chani is going to continue on hating Paul and causing problems, and that there might be a reconciliation at some point down the line. But I think that's going to be towards the end, underplayed. She's going to be way too much of a character in this film, because Villeneuve cannot help but try and push feminism because he's in love with the Bene Gesserits and thinks they're the greatest thing. I think we're going to get a lot of Princess Yudalin. I think we're going to get a lot of Chani. I think we're probably going to get a lot of the Reverend Mother and any other woman that he can try and shoehorn in here to minimize the male characters. I think we're going to see a lot of that. And maybe I'm wrong. We won't be able to tell until it actually happens. But based on what he did in the last film, kind of looks that way to me. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for being here today, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye now.